hello, free people of the Rocky Mountain region. This is Brandon from Free State, Colorado, and I hope you're doing well. Well, it's been a wild special session here in Colorado. Unfortunately, we have some Democratic legislators who want to make life a little bit more difficult for Colorado businesses, try and steal more of our hard-earned money, of course, and, they can't resist getting their digs in at the Trump administration. But I really wanted to share with you what House Minority Leader Rose Pugliese said on the opening day statements, because I think it really illustrates some of the reality of what's happening with the special session, especially with the Colorado budget. So let's take a listen here.
In making this a productive, thoughtful, respectful legislative session. Thank you. Madam Minority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This special session is premature. There's so much to unpack in what the Speaker just said, and I'm sure as we get through our committees and as we do our work in these next few days, we'll be able to all have these discussions and have them, as you said, Madam Speaker, in a respectful way. But our positions could not be more different. Just so that everybody knows, the budget needs to be balanced under the Constitution 2 times a year, when the governor signs the long bill into law and in supplementals. Our budget was out of balance after that. On June 18th, the Joint Budget Committee received a forecast that said we were going to already be $700 million in the hole. So that was before H.R. 1 was even signed into law. So let's be clear. H.R. 1, the tax credits, the tax cuts to hardworking Coloradans that will be in their pockets so that Colorado can be more affordable, those will commence in 2026 and the majority finishing in 2027 or coming into place in 2027. Not today, not when it was signed into law, 2026, 2027. We do not have a crisis today except for Democrat overspending. The budget is not balanced. The budget is not balanced because of H.R. 1. It's not balanced because we continue to spend as a state more money than we can afford. Coloradans can't do that. They can't continue to spend more money than in their household budgets, but that's what we do as government, right? Expecting that the taxpayers will then fill those holes. And the taxpayers have said, I have traveled the state as I always do in the interim and as much as I can during session, and talk to the people of Colorado, not just in my district, but across the state. And I'm incredibly honored to have that opportunity to talk to those people and ask them how their lives are. And you know what they tell me over and over and over again? I cannot afford to live in Colorado. I cannot afford to raise my kids in Colorado. I am a single mom, a single dad. I can't afford to raise my kids in Colorado. As a single mom myself who works 3 jobs, I get it. Colorado is unaffordable. Why is Colorado unaffordable? Well, because we continue to put more and more tax burdens on the people. And we do that, and we have done that in ways that circumvent the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. I will like to remind everybody, especially my friends on the other side of the aisle, that the people of Colorado, they still love the Taxpayer Bill of Rights just as much as they did, if not more, than when we defeated handily Proposition HH 6040. The Colorado Taxpayer Bill of Rights needs to be protected and continue to be protected. So I just want to make sure we're getting some facts on the record. The Joint Budget Committee, they had ideas. I mean, the good representative from Grand Junction, he brought forward ideas that would actually help with this budget. I'm going to leave that for him. But we have ideas. And you all heard some of our ideas. We litigated the long bill for over 12 hours on the floor, the first time ever in Colorado. And what did we do? We brought spending cuts. Because when you're spending more than you can afford, you have to stop spending. Here are some opportunities for us to stop spending. Over $900 million in potential spending cuts that were defeated over and over and over and over again in this last session. So let's just be clear on both sides that this crisis has been in place for a long time. The majority party has been in power for a long time, and they have had the ability to make Colorado more affordable. What they have done is continue to overtax small businesses, to overtax the people of Colorado who are struggling just to make ends meet. I mean, The majority party wants to tax overtime when the federal government is saying, no, that money should be in the pockets of the people. But we're saying, nope, we need that money too, because working overtime plus probably another 2 or 3 jobs is just not enough. We need more money in government. And most importantly, we support Medicaid and making sure that the Medicaid providers are funded to the levels that they need to be funded in order to make sure that those most vulnerable in our communities, those people who need the services the most, are getting the help that they need and deserve.
Well, I thought the House Minority Leader brought up some great points, and I really wanted to share them. Our news media here in Colorado is so in favor of the Democrat legislators, at least in my opinion. I don't know what you think, but that's kind of my thought. So I really want to make sure these other talking points get out there. And there were some really interesting points that Representative Pugliese brought up that maybe I wasn't as familiar with as I should have been, and I don't think a lot of other people are. The idea that the budget doesn't have to be balanced except for a very specific timing according to our state constitution. So the idea that they even needed to have a special session it was totally false due to the budget issues, right? They really wanted to make sure that the cuts that came through HR 1, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, were not going to affect some of these Colorado special interest groups. And I'm going to be talking about this in a different video about the actual legislation that ended up getting passed through the special session. So you can kind of see what I'm talking about there. But nonetheless, the legislator did not need to have a special session. The Constitution did not require it. And in fact, they could have waited to the 2026 General Assembly there, the regular session of the legislature, to balance the budget, to come up with a long-term plan. So they're wasting, 36 to 50. I've seen figures as high as $50,000 a day to run this special session. I mean, that's our tax money, and they're just throwing it away basically for ensuring that their little special interest groups get their money. It's absolutely shameful. But I really want to present Representative Pugliese's talking points to the people because you need to hear it. You need to understand what's going on and hear the alternative side. Now, she had mentioned the fact that there was a budget deficit already in Colorado that was projected by Legislative Council staff here in June of 2025, before HR 1, that One Big Beautiful Bill Act, was passed or signed into law, which was in July. So you can actually go here to the legislative website, and all the links at Free State Colorado, of course, like always. But you can read through their forecast. It's pretty interesting. The key points there, the Legislative Council staff gave a couple different outlooks, a couple different thoughts there about what could happen. So one of them, the big one, and this is what Pugliese's talking about, is the general fund budget overview section presents an alternative scenario that projects additional fiscal year 26 to 27 budget obligations based on current law. Under this scenario, scenario B, the year-end general fund reserve could fall short of the reserve requirement by $698 million. Additional explanation can be found in the discussion on the budget scenario B. There's definitely check that out. I think that's what's really interesting here. You can dig in, read through this, but basically they show the amount in excess of that reserve requirement is negative $700 million because they're spending a lot of money. And this is what we keep hearing from the Republicans and from some of the legislative council staff, is the idea that they're spending too much money, the money we don't have, and our state government's being totally and utterly irresponsible. So that when the HR 1 did pass and created some significant tax cuts, now all of a sudden it's a crisis for the state of Colorado because they've been doing such a poor job mismanaging the budget. No other state in the country had to have a special session or convene because of HR 1. Colorado is unique in this, and it just goes to show how bad our Democratic majority has been doing at balancing our budget. So definitely read this, folks. Check it out. But this is the big scenario B here that you keep hearing about the $688 million below the statutory reserve requirement that Colorado is facing because of this. And really, it's because they're spending so much money on all these different projects here. So check it out. There's the big number right there, negative $698 million. And we'll talk to you here again soon. Thanks.